What's up, guys? Resale Rabbit here, and today I've got a video that's a little bit different from what I normally do. Today, well, this video is geared a little bit more towards beginners on eBay. If you are an expert on eBay, maybe you'll get a little bit of good information, but this is definitely geared towards beginners. Today, I am going to show you 25 items that you can buy in thrift stores and garage sales and sell on eBay for a profit, and you'll find them pretty often. Now, this video is going to be a little bit different than most similar videos like this. A lot of videos like this, they're going to show you a bunch of random obscure items that you're never going to find, that are very rare, and those videos are good, and I'd like to do a video like that eventually, but I want to show you things that you're going to find, that you're actually going to find somewhat regularly. So everything that I'm showing you here is an item that I have found multiple times within the last few months, and I've found it, most of it I found within the past week or two. I'm also going to avoid talking about the obvious. We all know ink cartridges and graphing calculators and video games are worth buying. We all know that. So I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about things that are a little less obvious, but still pretty common. So, without any further ado, number one is going to be, now this one's a little bit more obvious, but Bose. Now this is actually my speaker. My Bose stuff does not stay in stock very often, but anything with that name on it, Bose, buy it. I've sold so many things. I've sold broken Bose headphones for 50 bucks. I've sold, I had a big bookshelf speaker that really wasn't worth a lot when you factor shipping, but I took it apart, took the little speakers out of it, and sold them for I think 25 bucks each. And then the box I basically just threw out. Anything Bose, cords, remotes, huge money. A simple Bose power cord could fetch you $60. Bose is a great brand. It's not something that you're gonna find every day, but for me, at least once a month, I find something Bose related, whether it's a cord or a speaker or something. I find something Bose related at least once a month. So that's number one, Bose. I'm keeping a tally here on my sheet of paper. That way I don't lose track of what number I'm at. Number two, this one is also somewhat obvious. I'm trying to get the obvious ones out of the way first, but Blank Media. This is a set of 2 VHS tapes. You may have saw it in yesterday's video. I picked it up at the Goodwill outlet in Rockford, Illinois. God, that outlet was awful. Anyways, I picked these up. I should get, I can't remember what it was, like 10 bucks or something after shipping and fees for 2 tapes. Any Blank Media, especially outdated media. Current stuff like DVD-Rs and CDRs are good, but any sealed blank media that is not in production anymore, cassette tapes, micro cassette tapes, floppy disks, I've even found mini discs, old Sony mini discs sealed, go for good money. A pack of I think 5 new Sony mini discs I sold for like 30 bucks, 25 bucks not long ago. Blank Media, I find it almost every time I'm out thrifting, and I was hesitant to put that on there, but I need to think of 25 items that I actually have here in stock that I can physically show you. Number 3 is, cords are all tangled up, chargers for tools. This is a Craftsman charger. Now again, this is my personal charger. You can see my drill right there, but I needed something to show you. I find these quite often. Craftsman, Works. Works is a good one. Works sells for good money. It's like leaf blowers and weed eaters and things like that. Big thing that I want to mention with Works. If you're selling this stuff on Amazon, do not sell anything from the Works brand. Even used, you will get an IP claim. I got an IP claim. The company's parent company is called Positech. I got an IP claim. A friend of mine got an IP claim. Do not sell that on Amazon. But on eBay, I don't see any reason why you can't. You know, Works is a good one for eBay. Craftsman, DeWalt, Makita, Milwaukee, basically any major tool company. I'm not a tool guy, but I've heard of most of these brands. You can find these, I find a lot of them actually at the Habitat for Humanity restores. A lot of people just see an old charger and think, $2.99 or something like that. And they're not always big things like this. I just sold one like a week ago. I wish I had it to show you. It was a little tiny thing that just sticks on the top of the battery, a little like a cup, and then had a cord coming off of it. They don't need to be big and fancy. Usually you're getting between $20 and $50 for these things used, and you can pick them up for just a couple of dollars. So that was 3. Number 4, MP3 players. Believe it or not, these are good money, sometimes as much as $100. This is a little RCA. Does it say the size? It does not say how big it is. If I were to guess, I would say maybe 128 megabits, depending, looking at how old it is. These are like 20, 30 bucks on eBay. Some of them, there's a SanDisk makes one, I think it's called the Sansa or something like that. Those sell quick for like $30 to $50. So old MP3 players, you'd be surprised what these things are worth. Look at this. The USB comes right out of it. These old, I don't know why, you can get an iPod for like 20 bucks and it's like 4 gig. I'm talking bare bones minimum. You just need something cheap. But this goes for more, and this is what, probably 128 meg, 512 meg. It's not much. So that is number 4, MP3 players. Number 5, Walkie Talkies. I've always wanted to meet the person. Obviously, the person's probably long dead, but I wanted to meet the person who named these things Walkie Talkie. And I wonder what else he could name in such an obvious and amazing name. But Walkie Talkies, some of these, especially Motorola, can go for hundreds of dollars used. I've seen some go for 300 bucks used for a single one. Now, I've never found one that expensive, so you're probably not going to find those. But these are basic Uniden. Sometimes you'll see Cobra. Sometimes you'll even see cheap Motorola. You'll get a good $20 to $50 for a set. Sometimes, it's always important to keep in mind, you want to check the batteries. This one, if I can get this off, has a proprietary battery. You can kind of see it in there. Has a proprietary battery. I always replace the batteries on these because these get left in cars and garages and the batteries go to crap. I make sure you can get brand new batteries really cheap. A lot of times they'll just use AA or AAA rechargeable batteries, and those are even cheaper. But I always like to replace it with new batteries, plus it's a nice little selling point, and it doesn't cost a whole lot. You can get batteries pretty cheap on Amazon or eBay. We want to check those. You also want to look, how are they charged? This one looks like it actually has a spot for a cord right there. But this one came with a docking station. You can tell by these on the back. It has a docking station where the two of them sit in it. They're not hard to test. If it doesn't work, play around with the settings a little bit, because I had one where one walkie-talkie would stay on and the other one would stay off, kind of like a baby monitor, where I could talk in this one, but I could not talk in this one. And I basically just tossed them aside thinking they were junk. And a year later, I decided to play around with it. It was just a quick setting, messed around with it, figured it out, and they were perfectly fine. I got like 30 bucks for them. So Walkie Talkies, that is number 5. We're already 20% of the way through this, and I can tell this is going to be a long video. Number 6, old hiking GPSs. Hiking, marine, GPSs like this. These are from the 90s. Look how old this thing is. These are, my computer just turned off. I like that lighting. These are good money. Usually, again, $20 to $75 for these. And people see this and like, it's 20, 30 years old. $2.99. You can get these things cheap. This is a Magellan. This is an Eagle. I've seen Garmin. They are good money. Definitely buy them. And as an added little perk, most of these, I can't get it off without a screwdriver, most of these just run on AA batteries. The downside is, it's very rare you're going to find one where the batteries aren't leaking and oozing in here, but clean that up with vinegar, good to go. These things, you can get them cheap. Double check other eBay listings to see if it needs anything, but it is eBay, so you can just sell it. Okay? You can just sell this as is without any accessories, but you usually get between $20 and $75. Notice the pattern here. Many of these start around $20. Next, number 7 is going to be these little pocket computer dictionary things. Often they're made by Franklin or Royal or Casio. I had another one here. This one is a little different. This one is a translator. I think I paid $2.99 for it. And I think I can get about 40, 50 bucks for this one. Some of these, like this Merriam-Webster dictionary, is like 15, 20 bucks on eBay. But that's still good money. You get these for like $1 or $2. They're really cheap. Sometimes you'll find some special translator ones, even some brands you've never heard of, and they'll go for hundreds of dollars. And if you ever find one new, I rarely sell them new for less than 100 bucks. Very rarely. So that's number 7, these little pocket things. I don't even know what the general term, because some are dictionaries, some are translators, some are organizers, but look those up. A lot of them are worthless, but a lot of them have value too. I would say I find them in probably 2 out of every 3 thrift stores that I go to. That is number 7. Number 8 are these HP photo printers. These little things, they are very common. Now, they're not all worth money, but many of them are. Now I forgot how, there it is. Many of these are worth money, between $30 and $100. In my experience, the black ones are always worth the most, probably because they're newer. It's the newer design. That's the color people are using now. Some have touch screens, some don't. There are some that don't have screens at all, and all the controls are done with the camera that's mounted on that. I don't buy those because you can't really test it without the camera. Now, how do you test these? It's very simple, but it's not free. You get paper and you get an ink cartridge. Often the ink cartridge is junk in these when I get them. So I buy, most of these just use the HP 110 ink cartridge. It's like you can get an aftermarket one for like 15 bucks, 10 bucks on eBay, or a generic, or whatever you want to call it. And you can use that to test quite a few of these. You also need a power cord. They're pretty cheap on eBay if it doesn't come with one. It's a very, like, you'll know the power cord when you see it. So I'm always looking out for those at thrift stores too. I keep them on hand. But look out for these. You also need paper to test them. I've never had to buy paper to test these. You know, maybe 1 out of 10 times, 10% of the time, they come with paper in it, and it's enough paper where I can test it. I usually use 3 sheets of paper for each test. 1 to align the cartridge, a second one to clean the cartridges, and a third one to print a test page. And if it prints out nice and fine, we're good to go. One more recommendation, get 2 ink cartridges, because your cartridge won't last its full life for testing because you're constantly taking in and out of printers. So you have that second as a backup, so if it does run dry, you don't have to wait for another one to come in the mail. So that is number 8, little tiny mini printers. Number 9 is going to be, oh, I got all these goodies here, what should I pick? Let's go with phones. Cordless phones. Someone just asked if they're portable. The printers, sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. This one is made where it can be. You get a battery, it's usually sold separately, so they can be portable. Usually people will just plug them in and use them at home. So that's a good tip right there. I just thought of right there. Thank you for that comment. Look inside this bottom compartment. If there is a battery in it, that could increase your sales price as well. So anyways, back to 9, cordless phones. Another thing that I find quite often, and you can get anywhere from $20 to $100 for these things. Let me give you an example. This thing, brand new in the box, 5 lines. I'm thinking I'm gonna get about $100 for this. I paid, I think, $5 at a garage sale last week. I never even got this listed yet, but this is good. Still factory sealed. Wow, that looks like masking tape in the video. It's just dusty. That's the original plastic tape. Factory sealed. Now, a couple things you need to think about with cordless phones. I always replace the batteries on them. Customers are, even though you don't have to on eBay, customers are willing to pay more and more likely buy it from you with new batteries. Now, the batteries are like this. You look up the model number inside or on the battery. I usually get them for about $2 to $2.50 each on Amazon, and I get them in 3 or 4 packs. Even if I just need 1 or 2, I'll get the 3-pack or the 4-pack because it's a lot cheaper per battery, and I have extras for when I find another one of these. Seriously, you find these at almost every thrift store. They're not all worth money. You do have to look them up. The model numbers can be in various places. They can be found inside right here. They can be found on the bottom of the base, and even on Panasonics, we'll just put them right on the bottom of the phone. Panasonics I love because almost every Panasonic just uses 2 rechargeable AAAs. I buy those on Amazon in bulk. The brand that I buy is called Sun Labs. They seem to be the cheapest and they do seem to work well, but you've got Amazon Basics, even got the original Panasonics. But always get new batteries for these. You're gonna sell them for more money. It's gonna be worth it. You're less likely to get a return. The other issue is a lot of times there are expansion lines. On this example here, this is the only phone that plugs into the landline, and all of these wirelessly connect to that. So you cannot use this phone by itself. Now, people will still buy them if they just have this and want to add an extension line, but these do get returned quite often because it's either not compatible with the one they have, or they think it's a phone in itself and doesn't need the base. So keep that in mind. Usually I like to bundle them just for that purpose, but I have been known to sell them by themselves, just the expandable lines, and they go for good money. So definitely landline phones. That was number 9. Number 10, this one's a little obvious, but Legos. Now we all know that Legos go for good money, but minifigures, this little pack of minifigures, I think there's 7 of them and a few accessories. I sold it for $27 today. It was on eBay for 48 hours, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. Good money in these. The minifigures, just generic ones or big bundles of them, you get about $1 each, but if you can narrow them down, these are all Harry Potter. I got $3 a piece, and I did look them up individually. There's nothing too special. Along with Legos, you know, people will sell them by the pound and separate them that way. Let me show you one thing that I completely forgot about. These Lego boards right here. I don't put these when I sell Legos by the pound. I just saw a comment about batteries and I missed it, so I apologize for that. I was walking back. Someone says Goodwill marks Legos high. Yeah, but garage sales, I often find them cheap. But these boards, I got 15 bucks for this board today. It'll ship first class. Just so it doesn't get bent, I'll put a few pieces of cardboard around it and throw it in a bubble mailer. I think I sold this one for 8 bucks. And these I don't think I've sold yet, but I've listed for about 7, 8 bucks. Someone says, I've had 7 Lego sets listed with no movement. Oh, I just realized someone wrote on the back of this one, I am gonna have to pull that listing or update the photos or see if I can clean that off. But, you know, these, the minifigures, they're all different kinds of pieces that you can pull out. So Legos, a lot of people know Legos have value, but there's a couple of different ways to sell them. Other thing you want to look for is look at these pegs. Make sure it says Lego on them. There are also Mega Blocks and Creo and all different other ones. Make sure it actually says Lego on them. Then you know it's Lego. People are really finicky about that. Every Lego piece will say Lego on it. Personally, I don't like selling mixed Legos by the pound because you basically need to go through and check every single one. You never know if it ends up being 40% Mega Blocks. You're going to have a really annoyed buyer. But you never know. Maybe you can sell them locally or something. Who knows? But that is a good way to sell them. So that was number 10. Number 11, 35mm cameras. These things right here, they are not digital cameras. These are just 35mm film cameras. These sell for about $15 to $30 each. I find usually Olympus and Canon, and sometimes Nikon sell for the best. Minolta, Pentax, Samsung, they'll still sell. Some will sell for a lot, but some not for so much. Almost every Olympus I find is good money, especially these. They're not digital, but they're electronic. They have zoom and everything. And these you get for next to nothing at Goodwill, so definitely check these out. Now to test them is very simple. You don't need to put film in it or anything. I put in a battery. There's I think 2 or 3 common types of batteries. I've never paid for a camera battery. Keep that in mind. I've always found good ones in these and held on to them. But they're cheap if you need to buy them. You pop in the battery. You make sure you pop it open. Make sure it winds. Make sure the flash works. Things like that. That's about all I do to test them. And I don't think I've ever found one that didn't work. I've found some that were broken, that were physically broken in areas, you know, where the lens doesn't pop out all the way. But I've never found where the flash doesn't work or the screen doesn't work. So that was number 11, 35mm cameras. Number 12 is going to be this big thing. Mounts for LCD TVs. You know, a lot of people hang these things on their wall and then they throw this away, or they donate it to Goodwill, so that's when I find them. Or a lot of people will hang them on their wall and then sell it on Craigslist, and the second owner doesn't want to hang it on the wall, so they need one of these. I can usually get, you know, 20, 30 bucks, sometimes as much as $60 for these things, plus shipping, depending on, you know, how recent the TV is, how big the TV is. The thing to look for is the size of this. The bigger the stand, the bigger the TV. Obviously, you're not going to want to sell a stand that's this big. No one's going to spend much money on it because the TV itself is small and probably worth about 30 bucks. But this probably came from, I don't have the listing up, but it probably came from like a 50-inch or so TV. A TV that is worth probably $300, $400, $500, $600 used. You said the mount for a wall. Is that the base? That's what I meant, the base. I meant the base. Try and find them if they have the hardware, but sometimes they don't always have them. What I like to do is look at competing listings to see if there are any other pieces. This stand itself actually has another piece that sits on top of it, which I've got stored away. I didn't feel like bringing it out. So this is actually 2 pieces and the hardware. So look at competing listings to see what it comes with. Now, how do you figure out what it goes for? Well, there are model numbers all over. There's like let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 9 different numbers, sets of numbers on here. Look up every single one until you find the right one, and that'll tell you from other eBay listings what this goes for. So that was number 12, stands for LCD TVs. Number 13 is going to be mechanical keyboards. These things have mechanical switches in them. You can hear the click when you're typing, and there's a following on these. A lot of people like these. This one came off of a cash register, so some of the keys were replaced. This is, I believe, a Unicomp. Yep, Unicomp Model M. That's probably the most common one you'll find. The most valuable one, as far as ones that you'll regularly find, are the IBM Model M. You'll find those once in a while. But the Unicomp Model M is one that you'll find pretty commonly. In fact, I've got 2 of these sitting around here. Some are black, some are white. Which one's more valuable is tough to say. If I was going to buy one of these, I'd prefer a black one because it looks modern and sleek. But some people like the white or tan ones because they're putting it with a vintage computer. It really just depends on the buyer. But basically, any mechanical keyboard is likely going to be worth selling. Now, these are a little bit big, a little bit tough to ship, but they're worth it. Like this one, I'll probably get $60 for. Bob and Kitty Show asks, how do you test them? Good question. Most of the time, our computers doesn't have this port. And even worse, sometimes they have a serial port that's like that wide. You need an adapter so you can connect it to a USB on your computer. I have 2 adapters, and they're not around here, so I can't show you. But one is just a little thing like this where I plug this in, and it's got a USB on the other side to plug it into my modern computer. Then the other one is an adapter that connects this to the old serial one, or vice versa. So I can plug the serial one into the adapter for this, and then plug that adapter into the USB adapter, and that into my computer. Stacks of adapters, stacks on stacks on stacks. But it's worth it. The adapters are like $2-3 with free shipping on eBay and Amazon, you know, just little Chinese things. That's how you test it. And then just push every button. It's just like a normal keyboard. It'll work with your modern computer in most cases. I've never found one that didn't work. Open up a Word document, press every button, make sure it works. If a button doesn't work, sometimes it could be as simple as you pop the key off with a little screwdriver or something. If you have a key popper off or whatever they're called, little tool that clamps the keys and pulls them off, even better, but a screwdriver will be fine. You pop the key off, clean it out with some alcohol, get the dust out, and then try the key, and maybe then it will work. Usually they work though. They're pretty indestructible. You know, 80s tech, that stuff lasts forever. So that is number 13, mechanical keyboards. You'll notice the difference when you're pushing them, how that sounds compared to other keyboards. One thing worth note that I'd like to add, you notice the keys are taller. Ooh. The keys are taller on here than with what we use today in these keyboards. This is called, I don't know if it's the official term, it's a chiclet keyboard. Just because the keys are taller doesn't mean it's a mechanical keyboard. So don't just buy it because it has the tall keys. You gotta listen for the mechanical sound. Next, 14. I am getting tired here. This is a 23-minute video so far. This could be a long one. 14 is going to be vintage headphones. This set is a COS 40 LC Plus. It's a cheaper set. It's like $20 or so on eBay. But most people see this and think it's junk, especially with this old connector. Nobody has anything to plug this into anymore. I don't even have anything to plug it into. Testing it, I will be right back. You get a little adapter, and it looks like this. This end I plug into my phone. That end will take this, where is it? This big connector. Now I'd imagine these are probably only a couple bucks online. I actually got one of these with a set of headphones and kept it. So that's how you test it. I just plug it right into my phone, play a YouTube video and listen to it, make sure both sides are working. They're kind of neat. People buy these things. This one I said is worth about $20, and I don't remember what I paid for it. This one comes in the case. Someone says I don't have an iPhone 7. No, I've got an iPhone 6S. I like my headphone jack, which is why I don't have an iPhone 7. But if you do have an iPhone 7, you know, I love Apple products. I've always been behind the iPhone, but it was so dumb they got rid of the headphone jack. But if you don't have one, test it with a Walkman or something, an iPod. I'm sure you have something you can test it with. This set is worth about 50 bucks. This is a Pioneer SE305 set. Comes in the original case. I think I spent $2.99 on this set. I don't find these really often, but usually about once or twice a month I'll find them. It's amazing how cheap. Nobody ever thinks these are worth anything because they're old. But they can be worth, they're not always worth money, but they can. This one is a crappy brand, and it's still worth buying. Someone says you bought the Beats earphones for it on or wireless earphones for it on eBay. Yeah, wireless ones are good if you have the iPhone 7, but I hate using Bluetooth. It's never reliable enough for me. So, wireless headphones, that is not wireless, vintage headphones, that is 14. The number 15, Apple products. Now we all know Apple products are worth money. I'm not talking just general Apple products. I'm talking about broken Apple products. I got this for free in a garage sale because it's broken, doesn't turn on. Easy 10 bucks or so on eBay. These I have purchased. This is an iPhone 6. I believe it's just the 6. This is an iPhone 5, maybe a 5S, and this one is an old iPod. They all have various issues. This one, the screen's kind of coming off. This one won't turn on. Still good money. This thing, easy 75 bucks, 60 bucks. Most people think it's broken, it's not worth anything. Even older ones can have value. I just sold a MacBook, mid-2010 MacBook, so a 7-year-old MacBook. This thing was destroyed. Screen was absolutely shattered. Stuff is rattling around when you shake it up. Absolutely destroyed. I didn't test it out, didn't even plug it in. I was afraid it might start to smoke if I plugged it in. No charger, nothing, as is. I got $180 for this thing. I paid $75 for a whole bunch of different Apple stuff. So anything Apple, the newer it is, the better it is. You definitely want to look into those. You can usually get them cheap. Even putting listings on Facebook, on eBay saying, I buy broken phones, or I buy broken Apple crap. Now, I don't know enough about this stuff to lay off all the specs to the buyer. I just say, here's the model number, here's the pictures. You're buying it as is. Sean says he saw the picture. Did I post that somewhere? I don't remember. But yeah, it was destroyed. Do I think the iPhone 4 is worth anything? Well, if the iPhone 4 is fully functional and can be activated, you could probably get about 20, 25 bucks for it still. If it's broken, not much, 10, 15 bucks, but hey, it's a, 5-year-old iPhone and still pulling in that much? Find me a 5-year-old Samsung phone, I bet that's not selling for much. Apple products really hold their value. That is number 15. Number 16, Sony. If it has Sony written on it anywhere, look it up. You would be amazed what they're worth. These old CD players worth $20 to $50. These old tape players. This one I showed in another video. This is one of the original Walkman tape players. It ended up being broken, and I still sold it for $50. It won't turn on or anything. It had fresh batteries, and I still got 50 bucks for it for parts. It just sold today. These things, air shot cards, I don't even know what they were. There was no listing on Amazon, no sales history active or current on eBay. I got a whole bag full of like 15 of these for, I think, $4.99. And I said, screw it, it's Sony. I listed it. They've been selling consistently for $20 each. So good money there. Even these little dinky headphones, these are like 20 bucks. They're old Sony sports headphones. Anything Sony is worth looking up. Boom boxes, DVD players, VCRs. If it says Sony on it, look it up. You'd be amazed what they're worth. As a joke, and I've been saying this for a long time, as a joke, I actually found a Sony ashtray. And I posted it asking people what they think it's worth. Now that really wasn't worth anything, but it was funny. But anything Sony is worth looking up. That was number 16. Number 17, filters. Any filters? These I got at the Goodwill outlet in Appleton. I probably paid about $1 for this, and they are worth, I believe they're like 15 bucks for the 4 of them. Definitely look them up. Filters, factory sealed. Not much else to say about that. Number 18, vintage toys that are still in the box. This is Rescue Heroes. This is, does it have a date on it? I played with these when I was a kid, so I'm going to assume early 2000s. Right here, 2001 by Mattel. Now this I've had for a while. This particular one I've had for a while and it hasn't sold. But it's very common for me to find vintage toys that are still in the box. Whether the box has been opened or not is irrelevant. Obviously the value is going to change. But in the box, sealed in the box, or even without the box, they can have some value. So number 18 is vintage toys. And they don't even need to be really old. Like that was 2001. You know, people who grew up and played with these toys in 2001 are now in their mid-20s. And they now have a little, I know someone says vintage, 2000s. That's 17 years ago or 16 years ago. People who were 10, 15 years old in 2001 are recent college grads, just got a good job, just started making decent money. And so they are spending that money on crap from their childhood. Why do you think video games from the 90s and early 2000s are worth so much money right now? They're not going to be worth a ton of money. They'll be worth money, but not this much money 10 years from now. It's because the people who grew up with them finally have enough money because they just got out of college, they just got that good job, they finally have enough money to spend on crap from their childhood, on nostalgia. And so that's why I would consider a 16-year-old toy vintage enough, at least, to sell online. So, number 19, camcorders. This thing is old. This, I remember my dad had probably the same model in probably 90s, early 2000s. Must have been 90s. It would have probably been mid-90s he had this. I'm looking for a date right now, and I don't see one on here. There we go, July of 1998. Old camcorders. It's worth about 50 bucks. Some of these, several hundred, especially Sony. Remember, look up anything that's Sony. Now these, you need a few parts. They come with a remote, and it definitely helps if you have the remote. You don't need it, but you need the battery, you need the charger, you need a tape to test it with. Oh, this is dusty, gross. You need a tape to test it with. They often come with a used tape. It doesn't add to the value. I save them for testing, film a little bit, test the zoom, test all the buttons. If it's a touch screen from the mid-2000s, they had touch screens, test those. Bless the Five says you sold a Sony cam today for $55. Yep, that's about the common price on eBay, 50 bucks or so. But sometimes you'll sell them for a couple of hundred, depending on what they are. Why people are paying, I mean, this is crap compared to my phone. I don't remember, or I don't know why people are paying that much for them, but they are. Mini DVDs, someone says, those are good. Mini tape, those are good. Someone just asked if anybody remembers Betamax. Actually, Betamax players could be worth some money. Most of them are, some of them not so much if they're, you know, the cheaper model. They're heavy, they cost a lot to ship. Brian says, night shot. Yes, definitely test the night shot on these things. That was so cool when I was a kid, the night shot on the camcorders. But yeah, Betamax tapes. That's made by Sony. The tapes, the players, those could be worth money too. I know I've sold the tapes before. I've never sold a Betamax player before. So that is number 19, camcorders. And they don't just need to be Sony. They could be Samsung. They could be Panasonic. They could be really any brand. Almost any camcorder is worth some money. Number 20. We're getting to the end. Number 20, car parts. This is a door latch for a Ford Explorer. I don't remember what year. Does it say on here? I was able to look it up. This is made by Ford. Car parts are good money, especially things like headlights, taillights, side view mirrors, things that commonly break and need to be fixed. They're good money on eBay. This is worth like 150 bucks if I remember. It's been a couple weeks since I listed it. Don't quote me on that. But this is just the latch for a door. The guy said it's brand new. I don't know if that's brand new or not. It came in the box. I just said it was used on the listing because why not? There's no rust or anything on it. It's greased up and now my hands are greased up. So how do you look them up? Just like the TV mount or the TV stand, there are all kinds of numbers all throughout this thing. So just look them all up and you'll find them, and the listings will say what years they go to and everything. Someone said I just killed the car part market. I'm going to kill another part of the market. This is something that I haven't done in many years, but we all have those pick and pull places. In Green Bay, we have one called Grandpa John's Pick and Pull. You pay $2 admission, and then you pay for the parts. You're pulling them off the cars. Every city has one of these, where they just have whole cars sitting out, and you bring your tools and pull them off. you can do some arbitrage in there, buying the parts and selling them on eBay. The major one that I used to look for was a window switch to, the switch on the door to open and close the windows for a 1995 Honda Accord. That's a car that I used to own quite a while ago, and I had to replace that switch, and it was like 50, 60 bucks on Amazon, or on eBay, I mean, 50, 60 bucks used on eBay. And at my pick and pull, it was $5. So I was buying them there, selling them online. I also worked with scrappers back. This was when I lived in North Carolina. This was like 6 years ago. I worked with a couple of scrappers who would buy cars, and all they would do is scrap them. The whole thing would get scrapped. They'd pull certain parts off, like the catalytic converter, and scrap them. But that's all they did with it. So I worked a deal where I was buying headlights, taillights, mirrors, switches, things like that for pennies. I'd basically give them triple the scrap price on it, and it was still like 40 cents at most for a headlight. So I would get all this stuff for next to nothing and sell it on eBay. Even things like sun visors could be worth something. The door for the glove box in the center. Mr. Sadie Saddle, I couldn't read that quick enough, says to Google common car problems. Definitely Google common car problems. But not only that, think of what is replaced on cars most commonly. Lights and mirrors, minor fender benders, and they get busted. And they're going to get pulled over and get a ticket if they don't have a headlight, a taillight, and a mirror. So they're definitely going to want to replace those. So those are the best things to look for. Of course, they're bigger, they're heavier, they cost a little bit more to ship. But things like switches, window motors, seat motors, definitely great things. So that's number 20, car parts. For reference, that door latch I got in a garage sale with a box of other crap for $5. Number 21, I am getting kind of tired here. Mickey Mouse clocks and watches. Now this seems like something that would be very specific, but in the past 6 months, I have found 4 of these watches, some with bands, some without, and 2 Mickey Mouse clocks and this Goofy clock. Definitely, they're all made by a company called Loris. I don't know if this is. The Goofy one, I don't think is. All the Mickey ones I've found are made by a company called Loris. They have a quartz movement. I paid $1 for this at a thrift store. I think I'm gonna get about 15, 20 bucks for it. The clocks, I think I might have found one on one of my videos. Pay a couple bucks each. I sold them for 30 or 40 bucks. But any of these things where you see Mickey moving his arms to point to the time, you would be surprised how often you find these at thrift stores and garage sales. So that is a good item to find. That was, I don't know if I've been doing this right, but I think that was 21. 22, anything music related from popular bands. I got these. I found a whole stack of these. This is all that's left. Iron Maiden fan club magazines. I had probably 15 or 20 of these. I was selling them for $15 each. I paid $1 each for these. And these are the only 3 left. I don't know what year they're from, but they're issue 93, 94, and 91. These things are very high quality print, thick pages. This isn't like a Good Housekeeping magazine that you read and pretend that it's for your wife. This is very high quality. That's what actually really drew me to it. But anything from old, especially 80s bands, 80s and 90s bands, you definitely want to look them up. I probably made 300 bucks from all of them. So that was 22. 23, let's see, remotes for TVs. Someone says I need to add this to my favorites. Thanks, Rabbit. Someone says smash the like button. Yes, smash that like button. That tells YouTube that I'm doing a good job and helps me out. Remotes is the next one. Most remotes I can get 10 bucks on eBay. Some 20 and 30 bucks. Usually you're getting these for like $1. I always look for remotes, especially at the outlet or at pawn shops. Always look for remotes. You can get a lot of money. I was at a pawn shop a month ago and I bought a stack of like 20 remotes for $1 each. I think I've gotten about $250 for them all between eBay and then what it would have cost me. There was one that's like 30 bucks to buy and I needed it for a DVD recorder. So I saved myself 30 bucks just by having that remote. So that is 23 remotes. Test remotes using your cell phone camera, yes and no. Some remotes, especially newer ones, don't work that way anymore. But if you want to see how to do that testing with your cell phone camera, just Google it. There are tons of YouTube videos out there for that. Number 24, now this one's a little bit more specific, but Xbox 360 controllers. These used to be like gold, like they were 20 bucks in a thrift store for these. Now, I don't know why, but these things, I find them somewhat commonly for like $1.99, $2.99, $3.99 each. And I'll sell them as a set like this for 30 bucks on eBay. First class, well, this might be priority mail shipping, but still, you know, 8 bucks to ship them. That's not so bad. That was 24, and 25 is around here somewhere. Maybe I lost count. All right, well, I'll just grab this. Old Nerd Things. There you go. Old Nerd Things. This is about 150 bucks on eBay with the box. It's like 50 without, 40, 50 bucks without the box. You saw this on my video yesterday. 1974 old alarm clock here. Batman. I call it Nerd Things, even though I enjoy it. I don't use that term derogatory. Anything that a nerd would like from back in the day. Star Wars, Batman, Superman, Star Trek, all that stuff. Definitely something to look for. I'll show you one more item that's somewhat common. Label makers. You usually see Brother, Canon, a couple other ones. This one I actually kept for myself. You can see I paid $1.99 for it at Goodwill. I kept it for myself because I use it, but when you find these, the tape looks like this. When you find these, they're decent money. You get about 20, 30 bucks online. So that is all I've got. I have spent the last 41 minutes talking very fast and very loud. Someone says that might be worth more now that Adam West is gone. It very well might be. I think it's cool. I'm not even a Batman person, and I think that's awesome. But that is all I've got for today. I just spent the last 41 minutes talking loud and fast, and I'm getting tired of talking. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, if you found it valuable, click the like button down below. It shows YouTube that I'm doing a good job. And if you didn't like it, click the dislike button below too, because YouTube likes that too. It doesn't really matter whether you click like or dislike. It shows people are watching. So that's all I got. Smash that like button. See you guys later. I might do another one of these sometime soon.